Hello YouTube, back with the next Modern Opponent review, and today I'm reviewing the two rivals known as Rocky Ripple and Fudgy McSwain. Got the two mixed up. It's very easy to do, you know. Because as I said, they're both rivals of ice cream, and I can easily see why you botched them up. I just did, but these are two characters that make their appearances only once in the Ice Cream Wars, because as we find out, they end up getting involved in a war mostly because they get a feud and therefore stop selling ice cream because one of them thinks the other, I think Rocky Ripple, thought his rival stole the recipe that he had been keeping up for years. But as it turns out, it was in the ice cream that was basically being saved for so long for that special occasion, and since they found it, they ended up getting it as a treat. But after all they went through with all the ice cream, wanting ice cream, spending basically the entire segment, the entire story, wanting ice cream, and then finally getting it and basically being sick of it. But they gotta, we don't really get to see a whole lot of them. These two don't appear after that, but we get to see their feud being resolved at least. So we know they're nice guys, at least in general, and of course, as any rivals would go, they would probably do things to try to make sure their opponent doesn't get the business they want. Even if that generally means being a little less, a little less fair, if you will. Trying to sabotage them in one way or another. Although I personally, even if I were their rival, I wouldn't do that. And yes, I know business gets slow, and you're probably going to have various issues to deal with, but I don't think it's fair to take it out on your opponent, even if they are your opponent. In this case, it was a big misunderstanding. There was no reason for them to be arguing. I guess there technically was, but they had no idea that some period before now, the recipe somehow ended up in the tub of ice cream that was being saved. I suspect it probably fell, they were, checking on production, and the recipe either fell out of the guy's pocket or whatever. He misplaced it at one point, and then it fell into the vat of ice cream that was being made, and ended up buried for a while. And then, it was buried enough that when the ice cream was picked up and put in the container, the recipe ended up surfacing, but it was too late to see it, so they had no idea it was even there. They're an interesting bunch. I guess we get to show that they didn't hold back when it came to their feud. Of course, that's kind of unfortunate also, considering they could have actually hurt someone, despite the fact it was only food they were basically throwing at each other, including the various toppings you'd find on sundaes. They had sprinkles and cherries and stuff like that. So they were definitely willing to go all out on each other to make sure only one of them was left standing. Although that wouldn't have helped solve the problem anyway. So it's just as well that they were brought to a halt by the one thing they were fighting over in the first place. It was very, very fitting and appropriate to have that occur that way. It's an interesting bunch. Too bad we don't get to see them afterwards, kind of working together. We just see them kind of make up and kind of offer them free ice cream. Of course, the stories are very short. They're only about 10 minutes each, so they wouldn't have had time to address that. It also kind of would have been nice to kind of, if this had been on a future DVD, to have bonus features explaining what happened after the issues that took place, what the characters were doing at the time. That would actually have been a little more fun, but as far as I'm aware, that never happened. Any of the DVDs that have been released, I'm not too sure these were popular enough to get such extra effort put into it. Wouldn't have had much, though. All you had to do is probably have it on screen stating what happened. At the very least, you could also include a still from the episode itself and kind of put it on top, kind of scrolling through as it went. But they're an interesting bunch. It gave us something interesting to have happen. I'm sure you've probably had kids that were probably under that circumstance, not necessarily running out of ice cream, but being upset, not having a good day. And of course, when they don't have a good day, you don't have a good day. And you try to balance things out by, giving something they would like. And ice cream is usually, I'd say, somewhere up on the list of things to give your although probably not recommended for that age, at least not without supervision, of course. You gotta make sure you don't give them too much or anything like that. And you don't. As at that age, you typically don't know what you're getting into when you eat anything, even if it's generally harmless. I mean, ice cream is, and it can be annoying, especially on a hot day. I think they were suffering from a hot day as well. So even if they had ice cream, they would have had to eat it relatively quickly, which means they're not cooling down, quickly and all that. So they're an interesting bunch, and they made for, I guess, an interesting story. It's too bad we didn't get to see anything else out of them. But yeah, that's my review on Rocky Ripple and Fudgy McSwain. Thanks.